Buddy of mine hit it off with this girl, and after a few days, she invited him over to a house party. Sure, he says, what could go wrong? He shows up and is introduced to a few of her friends, all guys. As the night carries on, more and more guys show up and very few girls are actually at the party. After they start talking about how they all know this girl, they find out that she invited them all from Tinder. Every guy was there not to hook up, but to populate this chick's birthday party. Edit. Auto-corrects from phone. Tell me your stories, guys. Tinder date with a famous chef where I was taken to a dive bar, where he promptly starting talking about how famous he was. We drank and watched sports. He proceeded to tell me, "You're cute," and this eventually went to, "I am going to make you bleed." He then invited one of his friends to come along. I went outside and he came up to kiss me. I was drunk, so I kissed back. Eventually he proceeded to tell me how he was being charged with battering his ex-girlfriend, but he totally didn't do it. Eventually, when it came time to pay the bill, he lost his wallet. Of course, I get stuck with it. "I'll pay you back." Needless to say, I never got a payment. Then he leaned up against me. I thought he was trying to kiss me again, but I looked down, and he was peeing on me. In the street. Peeing. On. Me. I swiftly, being too inebriated to drive, went and got myself a hotel room and a hot shower. Never again. Tell me your stories, guys. Started speaking to this guy on Tinder a few months ago. He seemed alright, but not my normal type. Regardless, we started speaking for a couple of days. I didn't realize how stupid I was until now, but I mentioned where I worked. The night I mentioned my workplace, I saw a guy walk past that looked a lot like him. I hadn't met him in person, so I wasn't 100%. I forgot about it, and a couple of days later, it was quiet in work, but my phone battery was low. I said I'd speak to him later before my phone died. Him coming in 10 minutes later with a fucking iPhone charger. Yes, this might have been a nice gesture if you know, I'd actually met him face to face before. This was really weird because he said he lived the other side of the city from where I work. I wanted to cut ties straight away, but I thought I'd return the charger after I finished work. He said he would be in a bar around the corner, so when I finished I met up with him, gave him his charger and made some excuse to go home. To my horror, I saw on his Instagram that he'd taken a smiling selfie earlier in the day with the caption, "I'm now a taken man winking face." I'd seen him like not even twice. To make it even scarier, for a good few weeks, every time I'd finish work I would see him casually walking past on his own, exactly at the time I finished. Really creeped me out for a while. Met girl, she was quite vocal about, no hookups. We went out, got drunk. She used the line, "Want to come back to mine and put your penis in my vagina?" So I did. Just as we started she said, "Oh, I love you. I love you. Do you love me too?" I didn't reply. I just thought, concentrate. Concentrate. It was a good night, but then she got really demanding and argumentative. It takes me a while to get used to starting to see someone. I like to get to know them a bit. She was talking about kids within a day of meeting me and I wasn't quite ready for that conversation. Then she got really shitty that I wasn't as committed as her, called me all sorts of names and said that I shouldn't be on Tinder if I wasn't going to take our relationship seriously. It was a whirlwind. It felt like a year's worth of emotion bundled into about 3 days. I deactivated my account and stuck with masturbation. Tell me your stories, guys. I worked at a bowling alley in high school. We had a guy climb up into the ceiling in the restroom and wait until we closed, so he could climb down and rob it. Not only did he not get any money, everything was locked up in a gigantic safe from the 1930s that probably weighed over 1,000 pounds, but he couldn't even get out of the building. All the steel fire doors were padlocked on the outside, and I guess he didn't want to risk being seen smashing the glass on the front doors, since it was right by a busy road. He did the only logical thing, which was go back to the bar and drink all night. The manager found him passed out on the floor when he opened up in the morning. Tell me your stories, guys. An Aussie guy the first no was out drinking in Canada with another Aussie mate. His mate left early to go back to the flat they were sharing in Vancouver and was accosted in a dark alley by 2 men with knives. Being absolutely sloshed off his tits, he failed to pick up on the men's intent, or their knives, and simply pushed them aside saying, "Nah, sorry mate, I'm Australian," and continued to fuck off home. The poor fellow later realized that he just brushed off 2 armed muggers by telling them he was Australian and ignoring them. Tell me your stories, guys. I was parked in the far end of a parking lot of a 24-hour grocery store, sitting in the driver's seat, checking a few emails and letting my window defrost. I had the window rolled down just a tiny bit, basically enough for someone to fit their arm through if they really tried. A guy approaches from the back, so I hear him and look that way. He tells me to get out of the car. The door is locked and he's holding a knife towards the window. He doesn't have a firearm. I just kind of look at him and say, no. With a confused look. My firearm is in my shoulder holster, but my coat is buttoned up. He awkwardly tries to open the door, can't, then actually sticks his arm in through the tiny part of the window that's rolled down. I immediately hit the button and roll it up, and so he's just stuck there, screaming in pain and pounding on the window with his other hand. He finally drops the knife, and so I let the window down a bit and he runs off. Tell me your stories, guys. In college I worked as a loss prevention guy for one of the big boxes, sit in a little room and watch cameras to catch shoplifters. We were having a problem with customers' wallets being stolen out of the men's fitting rooms. The victim would go in, try on a new pair of pants, come out to show his wife, and when he went back into the fitting room his wallet would be gone. So one afternoon I get a call from the sales staff about a fight in the men's fitting room. I run down there to find a 6 feet 2 inches black guy with a 5 feet 2 inches white guy in a headlock. The black guy caught the white guy coming out of his room with his wallet. Turns out the black guy's wallet was his Secret Service badge and credentials. Oops. Tell me your stories, guys. I didn't actually witness this, but I did witness the effects. One afternoon while trying to cook dinner, the power started acting funny. It wasn't a blackout, but more of a brownout, where power dimmed, and came back on, flickered, went out, came back on, dimmed. Up and down for several minutes. Then eventually the power went out. It would come back on for a few minutes now and then, but it was more or less out for another hour or two. I found out a couple days later, that some idiot tried to steal copper wire from some power station. The flickering of lights and such was him being cooked by several thousand volts. Idiot got killed trying to steal $100 worth of copper wire. My father is a businessman who owns a bunch of warehouses. One night the power goes out in one of the warehouses. Since it is a huge warehouse the power demand is also high, so there's quite a lot of high voltage wires. Call the power company and find out something isn't right. They send a person to come check it out. They find the guy's body in a room. His cutting tool was still attached to the wire he was trying to cut. Stupid way to die, to get several thousand volts through you, all for just a little bit of metal. I once foiled a clever plan by an elderly man at the department store I used to work at. He had a blazer with countless hidden pockets and he was filling them with bottles of oil of Olay moisturizer. The loss prevention guy called me to help corner him. As he was leaving the door, he saw that I was looking at him and started to run. We ran after him and he looked back at us. That's where he fucked up. He tripped over his own feet and fell like a sack of potatoes. Most of the moisturizer bottles exploded and he was lubed neck to knee. He smelled fantastic though. Tell me your stories, guys.